I've heard you say in the past that pushing a child to be high achieving can often backfire. What did you mean by that?
Well, I'll tell you a story from my own kids by way of illustrating that. Um, at our high school, which I think is a pretty normal among high schools, the kids are really strong. It's an IB school, and the kids are really strongly encouraged to take those classes. And so we as parents sort of jumped on that train. We're like, all in, well, let's do it. And so that was great for my daughter. She loved those classes. She thrived in them. She felt like they were excellent preparation for college. She loved all the work, all the intensity and whatnot. My son did not. He had a horrible time in them and really struggled academically in a number of his classes. And in fact, he had a fairly low GPA, all things considered, when he graduated from high school. And what we found when he went to apply for colleges was that the college that he attended is, like many colleges, uses your unweighted GPA to award merit scholarships. And so had we encouraged him to take more normal level classes versus IB classes and advanced math and whatnot, he would have gotten an additional $12,000 a year in merit scholarships.
Oh, because the unweighted GPA would have been higher.
Because his GPA would have been higher. So that's just strictly speaking of the dollars. As a parent, I would have been thrilled to spend less evenings with him crying over his homework or saying that he was the dumbest person that he knew, or all of those things. Now, I will say those classes were terrific preparation. Both of my kids felt they were terrific preparation for college. And in fact, my son, who failed high school calculus, ended up tutoring college statistics. So, so there are pathways through for kids at a lot of different levels of academic maturity when they are in high school. But I do think it's worth, depending on your kid's pathway and your kid as a student, I think it's worth being somewhat judicious in looking at how you how you incorporate those classes into your coursework. Now, of course, if you're applying to the Ivies, to the more selective colleges, having a full slate of AP or IB classes is pretty much table stakes to get them to look at your application.
Yeah.
But for the vast majority of kids, I think, choosing the classes to take where you have the passion and interest level in the subject to do the work that's required is also a really good pathway.
And to your previous point, I think there is a role that academic maturity plays in all of this when we're talking about, what we should be driving particular kids into, and also acknowledging that academic maturity can sometimes bloom later in kids. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like with the example of your son, it all sort of clicked for him when he started at college and he, turned it onto a whole other level and, is achieving great things professionally, because that's when, the blooming for him happened at a different time than it happens for other kids. But again, as you noted, your kids are both doing amazing things professionally. So it's acknowledging that, it can happen at different times, and, don't try to push your child into something that, they're not ready for at that time. That's kind of a wake-up call for us, I think, in K-12 education a little bit, because in our setting, we're so driven to want to make all of our kids achieve as much as possible, right? As a matter of course, we're often drawn to get as many kids in APs as possible, get as many kids in IBs as possible. If you're taking 3 APs, maybe we try to get you to take 4. If you're doing 4, maybe 6. And, and in a lot of ways that pays dividends for our schools, because we have a lot of kids that are getting into very prestigious universities and getting great scholarships. And so we're all very happy. But at the same time, to your point, Ann, it is important to take a step back, acknowledge that every student is in a different place academically, and make sure that we're creating the right kind of education experience for that student.
Yeah. I think to the extent that we are able to instill a love of learning in our kids, that will take them further than will having read Shakespeare and Macbeth.